quorum. All right, we'll go ahead and call to order. It is what, 6:09. Okay, roll call of attendance. Nick Brown is here. Tim Epperhart here. John Langhorn is absent. Tim Pond here. Tom Rudolph
Here.
John Shade. I don't know, did anybody else hear anything from John?
There was an email.
Was there any?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right,
Email
it was a
saying-
while back, he did say.
No, he
Well,
just sent one
just
today.
that one, he's not gonna be able to make it. He said, sorry for the
I
late
didn't-
notice.
Did not look at my email this afternoon,
Yeah.
okay.
A couple hours ago.
Well, is there a motion to excuse the absences of John Langhorn and John Shade?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Yes, is there a second?
Second.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Great, moving on. We don't have any guests I see tonight. There's a sign-in sheet going around, if everybody can make sure you hit that. Approval, did everybody else, Tal, did you guys get this sign-in sheet?
Yep.
Okay. Approval of the minutes, sent those out a while back, and I think they were included in the packet. Any issues, changes, consternation thereof?
Motion that they be approved.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Moving along. All right, Bruce, consultant reports.
Oh, well, if you were, you'll see the report in front of you. What's in red is essentially new. And, I don't know, is a fall planning meeting been scheduled?
I am waiting to hear back from the FAA. I gave them a couple of dates and just haven't gotten confirmation yet on the date that they selected for
I
us.
know they're going around setting all those.
Yeah.
Dates are
Yeah,
just like.
I emailed them, I think it was last week.
Anyway, that's the last bullet point on the first item. Fuel farm marking, I'd suggested last time, and still can, that if you decide that, you know, once we get the ramp going in the spring, just use that guy. Have that guy stripe it. Now, you know, the price was really high because it's almost all localization, but it'll bring the cost down. The other choice is that the city public works does pavement markings on it, and then so that can happen at that time.
Do you have like what the add-on for to have them go ahead and do it at the same time? That dollar amount? I mean,
Yeah,
what all
we'll
does the city
get
need
that.
to approve
Well,
that?
I don't have the footage yet. I'll get to that. I was focusing mostly on the tie downs.
Just regular paint or is it thermo?
It's neither.
It's
Of course.
aviation.
It's got,
Of course.
It's regular aviation paint. Of course.
it's got,
Glass bead.
last meeting, thank you. The unit price, I had it.
It's not the Rust-Oleum can that's upside down can.
The unit price was like $38 a foot, but a lot of that's captured as part of his mobilization. So the additional cost didn't be anywhere near that. Until we get a little closer on the work, I wasn't gonna ask you to make sure you all want it. I'll go ahead and price it out if that's the.
I just wanna make sure that the city has whatever they need to approve
Okay,
that
I'll
scope
work on a
change.
price, yeah.
Yeah,
Because it makes all the sense in the world to have it done at the same time when you've got people out there,
yeah.
I will price that with the else.
in my mind, albeit.
I think
Sometimes
Chairman
it's
is
logical.
showing good judgment, so, yeah, I agree.
You know, sometimes I apply logic where it shouldn't be.
All right.
Just
Moving
seems to
the
me like
ramp
we're spending-
itself, you know, the bids were taken on the 6th, and the grant wasn't actually executed till August 29th, April 6th. You know, bids are good for 60 days. That's the maximum they can be good for in the state of Ohio, for the Highway Box Code. FAA, this isn't uncommon to where it takes longer than 60 days by any means. What is uncommon is the environment that we're in construction, and asphalt starting to come down. I asked him the price of the concrete, it was probably $50,000 or $60,000 more. God almighty, he'd say his price for concrete was like $250 a yard, which is outrageous. So, I do have a price, we're working through it. We're gonna have a call with Nathan, I think it was Wednesday afternoon, and walk through it. There's a couple different options as to how we can do this. It's gonna be a little higher. I've had some of our clients, none of our clients who canceled the project. I've heard there's been a couple of reports that have. High University's ramp, now it was $3 million project instead of $300,000, but they elected to sign a contract for the original contract, knowing that, ODOT has an asphalt index that contractually, certain things go up, then the contract can go up. So they agreed to abide by the ODOT asphalt index, and there's an increase in pricing in the spring when they go to pave. The university will pay the additional cost. The FAA will not pay the additional cost because the pricing's gone up. That's just not there. They just won't do it. Trust me, I had all 3 or 4 of them on the phone one day. Fortunately, but for OU, it's easier to have that pot of money to match grants. And that's something we'll talk about, Nathan, and we can do the math and work it out. So either way, it would start till next spring anyway. We don't want to ramp half done and a big hole dug up for the winter and kicking gravel out on the pavement. So we will keep in touch with that. Item 4 at the last meeting, I thought that was a good meeting. There was a lot of good energy and good comments at the last meeting. But we had a different chairman and Nathan wasn't here as well. I don't know what that is.
That's right.
Talked about, I think you mentioned, have more tie-ins. And I went back and looked at the unit prices. I focused on this. It's like $860 per drilling and putting it in, anchor in. So that's $2,400, and I just threw, a few bucks more for the pavement markings. And he said he'd gladly do the tie-downs for the contract enterprise. So we can firm that up. The decision is if you're gonna do that or not isn't needed until, February or March.
Do we have a sense of what the layout of those would be?
Yeah, we had laid them out at one time. Now with the change of parking, I don't know. We sort of asked her a question.
I just want to make sure they're not in the wrong spot.
I do
They're
too.
in the way
I
of it.
mean, I've missed a couple of meetings, guys. One was COVID, one was me being forgetful. And then I think the last one I was actually in Las Vegas, sorry.
Oh, well, that's
Where are you talking about putting these tie downs at? Cause
I think
we're
it's
sort of,
back along that. Can you explain it better than?
The ramp extension that we're doing in between Safe Skies and the Jets hangar, when that is done, putting a couple more tie downs in that area.
You could probably, there's a couple of places we could squeeze a few more in.
okay. 'Cause
I
know
think when we looked at the fueling, the payment market revision for the airport fueling, whatever, a year or so ago, there was some other tie-downs we talked about.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna put a building there.
That's changed.
Yeah, that has changed. If you're talking about the Butler County,
The Butler Tech thing,
that's going
Down by
next to you.
next to the museum, next to the museum.
Yep.
Oh,
Across the ramp, right,
so,
to the north side.
okay.
So tie downs are not a terribly big obstacle if they are in the way, but it just, you wanna make sure it's where you want it to be, that's all. That's really a nice estimate.
The other
I
question
didn't
is,
just wanna willy-nilly put some tie
Right.
downs somewhere else.
we always look at the master plan, believe it or not, and see if we showed them. And the other question is, what's the need?
Mhm.
Is it what everybody thinks it might be?
Yeah, sure,
And I can't answer that for you all, I'm not there every day.
yeah.
that's what I talked about, let's get photographs, ramps full, get photographs, and decide if it's worth $3,000 more or 2,500 to put more in.
Yeah.
What's the return for that for the airport? And how are we going to define that, so we'll do that. I think it was last meeting, 2 meetings ago, an issue came up, the smokestack being torn down and the approach from them is being changed. I got emails attached, kind of email exchange with the FAA, and Alex has been very responsive, which is cool.
Alex is responsible.
Yeah, he's the best one. And so I'm glad we're working with him on this. So we'll just keep working with him. And
Now, on the smokestack, so I was contacted about 3 or 4 weeks ago by Bear Becker. They were wanting to fly a drone in the airspace around, coordinated that with these guys, FAA and everybody. Is this related to it being removed?
I don't know.
Because SD is moving, it looks like potentially moving forward. I got the gist, he wasn't really saying it, but they may be removing the stack.
Oh, I heard it. Is it removed now?
Are you referring to what Bear Becker's doing for
Yeah,
removing?
yeah.
Did you all have it? According to Bear Becker,
Yeah.
that's gotta be them
I'll
doing
talk to you.
something for somebody else.
Okay, because they were filming, or they were droning SD's property.
Well, at least they're calling you, I mean, that's a
That's-
step in
that's
the right
always a step
direction.
in
I
the
mean,
right
usually the people who are doing that
Right.
know what to do, so.
Yeah.
If they get
Good
too
on them.
close to the airport, they're not gonna be able to
Yeah.
anyway.
Okay.
No, I don't know.
All right, we'll talk Wednesday.
But they probably have some private work in there or something they're trying to
Yeah.
do. I know there's on the agenda, and I'm not closing out their runway lighting grant. I think that just came to light within the last 2 weeks, hasn't it?
Yep.
You were able to track down some stuff that Matt had done.
Yep.
And speaking of poor excuses, my closeout guy was in Hawaii for 2 weeks. And then he texted this morning and said, I'm back, but I got COVID. So, he had a good flight, I guess.
Sounds like it.
So, I think you and Ben can communicate on that, how to go about it. I mean, we can take care of it, we just hit our hit list here in the last 4 or 5 days.
All right, anything else?
Yes, sir.
Anybody have any questions that we already haven't asked?
Like questions, I mean, people are listening.
All righty. FBO report. Scott.
Good afternoon. This month, we sold about 14,000 and a half gallons of fuel, 10,000 in jet, 4,000 in nat gas.
Do you know how that compares to this time last year?
Unfortunately, we didn't get any of that information forwarded on to us.
We can't pull it out of the Avfuel or anything?
No, because it's a different system,
Okay.
or, well, I wouldn't say a different system, but we're a different user.
Okay.
It's tracking, the last couple of months, I've looked to see, at least in finance, what we were paying for fuel and what these numbers jive in. We're within the same ballpark as where we were last year.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't.
Oh, you're good. Our prices, after tax, you can see our jet's sitting at $638. Full service, $723, that's for avgas, and $702 for the self-serve option. We're sitting about median with our surrounding airports. And couple updates with the FBO. The fueling side of the airport is officially 139 compliant. We were able to get that completed on September 29th. Everything's up to date, up to spec. At this point, we've started compiling quotes for equipment that we could possibly need for charter traffic. So AMS out of Nashville is currently looking into all the pricing of equipment for that. We have seen a steady influx of smaller charter jets coming to us this month. Some have taken fuel, some haven't. And one of the things that we've noticed in the aviation field is when the smaller guys start coming, the bigger guys will soon follow. You know, it's just a matter of time getting our name out there, letting them know that we can take care of them.
Speaking of that, do you guys have people down at NBAA this week?
I believe, I think it's the owner and his brother and one of the other guys from Nashville are there.
Okay, great.
And then our FBO jet truck has needed a few repairs this month. We've been in talks with AvFuel, and with everything that's going on with the truck, because it's older, we're kind of working with AvFuel to see maybe some future trading of a vehicle or something along those lines. And then self-serve has been up since September 29th as well. We went almost a month with it down.
And that was a issue with the computer?
The circuit board, small circuit board ended up with a couple contacts on the backside getting fried. And QT Pod, it was kind of a battle for them to get them to replace that particular board. They wanted one of their certified companies to work on it. The company that we had install it years ago, they're not technically QT Pod certified, so they were waiting on Rebel Services, which we call them up from Mississippi, and they're so backed up that it took a while for them to get up here and get it fixed. But luckily we got them in there, got the board fixed, and we're smooth sailing since.
Great.
When you first brought it up, I thought you said soft serve,
Oh.
not self-serve. I had
There you
to,
go for soft serve. That sounds kind of good right now.
had to let that digest.
All right. All right, anything else from you? Any questions?
I got one, just curiosity. I was down here over the weekend and saw a nice little jet take off. I heard it'd been here for a few days. Any details on, were they just one of those charters you were talking about?
One of the charters. So I'm not for sure who it was, but somebody that is native to the area, I guess is a baseball player. I'm not sure if anybody.
Schwab's.
Okay, he was in the area.
Had to be
You can
Yeah.
afford that.
It was a nice jet. It was a very nice jet.
Yeah. Be my guess. Be a baseball player.
So they were playing playoffs this weekend. I didn't know that would be him.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably got his family to fly to
That's true. He could take his family.
come in and see the game. Okay. Cool. Are you guys, when you get the charters like that, are you at least writing down tail numbers, date, time?
Yes. Anytime we fuel, it doesn't matter if it's a base customer or not. We are writing tail numbers down. That gets put in my files that we are to keep for years. So I could go back through, look at any date.
What if they don't buy fuel?
That's one of those things that we're hoping that the Aero 1200 is going to.
Okay, so that was another question I was gonna, so we've got Aero 1200?
It is ordered.
Okay.
Signed a contract
Because I was
last week on
just
it.
going to bring that up
Yeah.
about either getting that or Verse Hour.
Yeah, no, I signed the contract last week. I think they're gonna be talking to you or Kevin. I gave him your contact info to coordinate the install. I think their parts and hardware maybe a couple weeks out.
Okay.
Is that the
Great.
thing we talked about last time that kind of monitors activity? Okay.
Yeah.
And who has access to mine that data or pull reports? Will you?
Yes.
Great.
Yes. My idea would be to give
The airport manager that.
airport
role.
manager and then FBO at least a login.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Great.
so we can.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. It's
There
relatively
was-
inexpensive. I was really surprised. I expected the price tag to be more than what
What
it was.
was it, can I ask?
What, $1,200?
I
Yeah.
think that's
That's
kind
what
of the
that's-
startup.
And that's with like the initial install, and then they basically, it's that much just in the first year, just so they pay for the equipment. You don't pay them the monthly maintenance until like the fourth or fifth month, so
They're pretty reasonable from what I've
It's,
seen.
it's $800 a year maybe after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know Vertower's like 500 a month,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I think, you know, from what I've seen, their interface is a little more robust and has a lot more
Yeah, if we were, you know,
capability.
if this was Teterboro or somebody, I probably wouldn't go with,
Yeah.
with Arrow, but for our volume and our types of activities.
As long as it gets the data we need, which.
Although surprisingly, they service Teterboro, so.
So what's this do? It tracks end numbers or?
So what it's gonna do is, it's basically, I'll call it correct me if I'm wrong, I call it a poor man's black box recorder for everything around the airport. So it's gonna track, you know, all your activity on your runway, everyone that's got their transponders going, it's gonna track, you know, they're parked here on the tarmac, they're on this runway, they're taxiing out, it's gonna give you time, it's gonna give you their speed, your distance, your altitude, the whole 9 yards, so we can also monitor safety issues, near misses, incidents like that.
Biggest thing it's gonna give us is, well, it's using ADS-B data, but it's gonna, it gives us our operations counts for determination of critical aircraft, which is
Critical.
absolutely critical for anything we wanna implement in the future.
Right.
And depending on runway length, our runway width, our taxiway separation,
Unfortunately, it's,
pavement maintenance, anything. Unfortunately, we're just now doing it. I mean.
be careful what we wish for.
I think it's going, yeah,
That's all one go backwards.
correct, it can, but,
But the
Yeah.
good news is they know they gotta
But
do
you
something.
gotta start
They didn't
somewhere,
believe
so.
anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't believe that they needed to do something, and now they do.
But it just uses ADS-B.
they will
Yeah.
put, yeah, but they will put their equipment on the airfield somewhere so that it's capturing ADS-B on the ground, not
Right.
just in the air.
Okay, the only thing that I mean, it sounds like a great idea, especially when it comes to
Yeah.
trying to get funding and things like that. The only thing I would point out is that because of that grass runway, we have a fair amount of activity that is,
Doesn't have an electrical system.
doesn't have an electric
Yep.
system.
And I would say they don't matter when it comes to what we're trying, and I don't mean that in any way of belittling their operations. If we were worried about capacity at the airport, we would be worried about capturing those. But we're not so much worried about capacity as we're worried about the gauge of the infrastructure we have. And those airplanes that don't have the electrical system are not of the size that are going to drive the gauge of infrastructure we need. We're wanting to make sure we capture all the jets and all of the larger metal that's coming in and out of here. That's what's setting what will drive, you know, how long our runway is, how wide our runway is.
Right.
The guys that don't have electrical systems, they matter in terms of operations and everything else, but if that was, we would be worried about that if we were worried about capacity, but we're not worried about capacity.
Yeah, and the reason I bring this up isn't to get into that
Sure.
discussion. It's the fact that the museum does, I don't know, 30, 40 operations a weekend, and there's not an ADS-B one in them.
Sure.
So, do I need to give you those guys, or give you guys those numbers?
I think when we come to it, yeah.
When it comes time to do another forecast and justify things, it can't help, can't hurt.
Yeah, I'd say even, yeah, I think if you report them in whatever someplace for you, so that we
Yeah.
keep track. They do look at operations, but you're right, Nick, for the kind of airport you wanna be in, the facilities you have, the length and the width of the runway, and the full parallel taxiway, you gotta, the corporate stuff, the big metal, as you said.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get it.
But
because
they
that's-
also look at number of operations.
Yeah, so, anyway, the reason I wanna make sure that we don't get shorted, on the operations, if those operations are gonna help us, you know,
They can't hurt, we'll say that.
right,
They absolutely can't
Okay.
hurt,
so,
absolutely.
okay.
And also to answer your question about the ones that don't get fuel, larger jets are required to pay a ramp fee.
Okay.
So they are documented.
So you're capturing it that way, which is great. Good.
What's the fee?
$150 a night for larger jets. Smaller jets, I think it dropped down to 75.
And what, you waive it if they buy anything?
If they buy any amount of fuel, was what was proposed to us, which unfortunately, when you word it that way, you will have somebody come in and be like, well, I'll take 5 gallons. So I'm not sure if that's something that, needs to be revisited, and have a minimum.
Yeah. I mean, it's so much, that range to me varies so much by the type of aircraft though.
Right.
I've never seen that other places.
Any fuel.
Yeah.
There's a-
Well, no, that you have a requirement for a minimum.
Oh, yeah, I haven't either. And it's, to me, that's,
Every larger airport has, depending on what you're flying, 100 gallons, 150 gallons, or you get so much discount based on how much you are putting on. I mean, that's pretty common across the board at larger airports, but not so much like our size airport.
Yeah.
But
I mean, to me, when we're wanting to encourage the traffic and wanting to encourage, I mean, it makes all the sense in the world to just go ahead and waive it. 'Cause, I mean, I'd rather get the operation than a ramp fee,
Right.
For now.
for now, especially with the right kind of operation.
Hey Nathan, did staff have any conversation about the 139 compliant and kind of the good conversation we had last month? I don't expect you to have like, oh, we're doing this in a month, but maybe you could enlighten us to kind of the inside the house discussions, if you think it's relevant.
I'm not following you, Tom.
The 139, we
Oh,
talked.
he wasn't here last month.
Yeah, oh, that's right.
Okay, I apologize.
The 139 compliant, Leisha and Paul got real excited. It's basically, you can host charters. That was kind of what we got amped up about.
Yes, so with being 139 compliant, we can start falling in with charters, because their insurance policies require their fueling operations. If they're going to get fuel from us, we would have to be 139 compliant. So now we can go out, we can start talking to people. And we actually, I did get some connections. We did have the jet that came in over this weekend was Red Wing Aviation. They're based out of Florida. And I was able to talk to them and kind of get their eyes pointed towards us. And they're very excited to possibly look into us when they come up this way, which could be a good win. Because they're smaller jets, they're citations, but they're some of the top of the line citations that can carry a good amount of passengers, and they're one of those that'll be that small guy to get us to those larger. And the nice thing about this, we don't need the belt loaders, the air stairs, or anything like that to get them taken care of right now.
And I think kind of what we had talked about was specifically maybe Miami, because I guess that you were saying they go all the way to Dayton.
Yes,
To
and
charter
Miami
up there.
University charters
Already
out of
having
Dayton International
conversations
Airport.
with them, with
Yeah,
Bumper Tech, and
Exactly, yeah.
just, them being that much closer, whether it's football or hockey
Yes.
or basketball,
Yes.
or,
Most definitely.
So those are definitely where we need to start looking at, the equipment cost and looking at how they can benefit the airport and moving forward. We can land a 737, but I can't take care of a 737. That was one of the things that I was looking at our reports. Our runway is actually capable of landing a 737 because we're capable of handling, I think it was 140,000 pounds on our runway.
Anything else for Scott? Okay, moving on to the manager's reports.
All right, well, probably tomorrow morning, we're gonna be sending out, hopefully Nathan will get a replacement for himself here sooner rather than later.
Or at least assistance.
That's right. We'll forward that along here to the group too. And as we have some other job boards to hit, we're gonna try to take a wide shot.
Are you gonna use the AAA board as well? Or where are you sending that out to?
I have it written down in an email. I'll get back to you.
I know I'd sent some to
Yeah,
Paul.
so a couple of the ones that you recommended,
Okay.
definitely, there's a few others that we kind of already had on our list, so we'll see how that goes, and, hopefully we can have somebody on board, to start the year. As I think we alluded to last month, or was in the report, we're gonna be going out for new pricing bids for grounds maintenance and snow ops here. We haven't done that for a little while, and we should. So, and looking at it, I think what we're probably gonna do is probably go ahead and do we'll probably do a combination for both operations. That's probably what we're gonna do. You can talk to the city manager on that one. There's some pros and cons to it, but I think we might get better pricing if we have it as both, as one contract. Right now, it's two separate operations. But we'll see where that leads. Obviously, Bruce gave us the update on the apron expansion. You know, I'll believe it when I see it. Crack sealing for the ramps, taxiway, and around some of the T-hangers should be completed next week. Every time they tell me, hey, we're gonna be out there Monday, the crack sealing machine breaks. So, at least that's what I'm being told. So, hopefully that's taken care of here by the end of next week. The other thing I think we've kind of hit upon or whatnot, one of the first things that we're gonna be doing with the new airport manager, and if not, Nathan will end up doing it, is try to look at a review of our rental rates and lease rates out there at the airport. I mean, I'll be quite honest, you can rent a somewhat larger amount of square footage from the U-Haul place there on Verity it costs you more for that than a T-hanger. So we'll be looking at some adjustments potentially going forward, at least on the T-hanger front, and then as other leases come into the queue, we'll start having those discussions. But I think we haven't really touched those for quite some time. I think at the last meeting, I think folks touched upon the Butler Tech proposal. Very positive. I know that their superintendent for the JVS, I think, has a little presentation for council next month, tentatively scheduled. Hasn't been totally solidified. Try to give council an overview of the project, what they're looking to do, their timeline. I'm sure they'll be asking for some sort of assistance or accommodation on something, so we'll figure that out. They've secured probably the lion's share of the project costs in front of Jobs Ohio for an OSIP grant consideration. And then we're in discussions with Miami University. There's some state capital dollars, $750,000 that was appropriated. And Mr. Moon remembered this, thank goodness. Probably 4 years ago, if not, 4 years ago. For a facility like this, so we're in discussions with them and Butler Tech on how that arrangement would work. Tentatively speaking, Butler Tech's in the process of selecting their architect engineer for the project with the goal of having plans and bid documents first quarter of next year is my understanding, unless that's changed in the last 30 days. So they would probably want to break ground by the time they bid it out and everything, probably midsummer. 2024 completion, probably third quarter of 24 completion for that facility. And then we had the good fortune, I guess, ODOT came out last week and performed an inspection and audit of the airport. We have not gotten an official rundown from ODOT as to what we may be deficient on or need to address. Verbally, we did get some feedback from the inspector. Most of these are I would say some low-hanging fruit issues related to the grass runway and some of the cone markers or whatnot. They're definitely there's definitely some issues. Some other markings, some other issues. Kind of a couple of interesting things though. Although they've been there forever, they're wanting Light Up Middletown now. I guess like I said, when we see it in writing, we'll verify it, that Light Up Middletown should get some sort of permit and permission to have some of their light display that's closest to Butler Tech and the Jets hangar. And although it has other colored lights on it, they want a red light beacon on top of the metal structure, so. Yeah, most of those issues. Most of these things are, like I said, are fairly minor in nature, with the exception of the lime pond that seemed to be a very large issue with the inspector, with our, runway safety area. We're supposed to have about 350 feet. Right now, we might have 100. So that's a situation that.
Was this an inspector that was new or had not been here?
I mean, we pretty well addressed that with the FAA.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm waiting for this gentleman to go back to central office in Columbus and write things up and have it run by the powers that be
Yeah,
before it comes back our
I'm
way.
gonna make a note, we bring that up with Ben on the phone.
Yeah.
Wednesday, because I think if we may be able to preempt any in writing.
Yeah, I mean, we have a long-term solution to that.
Right.
The issue is that project is going out to bid early next year and is not gonna be completed for probably 18 months. And so, it's one of those things, yeah, we could roll out and,
That's fast road on, by the way.
yeah, that is.
I think about, especially at the FAA, we had documentation to the FAA accepts your plan, we just pass that on to
Yeah.
the state.
Should resolve the issue.
Yeah, I
That's
mean-
what I'm hoping.
Most of the other stuff, yeah, they don't like the direct taxiway connection in front of the FBO to the runway.
I think that's
Oh,
in the
yeah.
master
So,
plan.
That's part of our,
That's
that's
on the
part of our
master
master
plan.
plan.
Yeah.
Well, then
Yeah.
they're gonna identify the same things. If they don't,
Yeah.
they're not doing their job.
Some issues with Farmer Bob out there in the hay bales, which we're addressing right now. A little lackluster performance this year on not only getting it cut in time, but then leaving the bales out in proximity to the runways and the like, so we're fixing that as we speak.
That's also a whole problem.
Yes, yes. So we're just trying to find motivation there. But other than that, I mean, operationally, I think our contractual relationship with AMS has progressed well throughout the year. I'll tell you, we've expended a little more dollars than we expected, simply for the fact that the fuel farm was in such horrible shape. The fact that we did not have a major issue out there, an incident, is a large surprise to Nathan. But we dropped the dollars into it to make that fixed, considering not only it's a safety issue and the like, but it's also sitting on our well field. So that's a big issue. We are looking at some capital expenditures for some equipment, as we in discussion with AMS to service some of our charter traffic in the future for next year. I think we need a little bit of proof of life or commitment for some of the end users that they are in fact coming, and that really can justify the expenditures. And then, we're just waiting for a few other things to happen there at the airport, so we know kind of where AMS's permanent footprint will be and the like. So I will say this, we're on track and in the same zip code as we were last year, but I don't believe we're gonna hit the fuel sale target, which I'll admit to you was probably a little aggressive by previous folks in terms of estimating. I don't think we're gonna hit that number. But we'll still run it within our planned margin. So, expenses, because we basically sell gas at what, 19% margin, 19 to 20% margin is what we do. So,
Well, I mean, having a third year-over-year of white-hot growth would be surprising.
yeah,
I don't know what you guys are seeing, Ben, but I mean, things are starting to a more normalized growth rate,
Yeah,
I mean, which is
yeah,
not surprising.
yeah. So, I mean, can't talk about it, but in any detail, but we have another potential end user at the airport that we're in preliminary discussions with, that would increase traffic as well, so.
Great.
So hopefully maybe have something to share before the end of the year on that. Fingers crossed.
Any questions?
Yep. So I was surprised in the ODOT airport inspection paragraph where it said, require more work is the incremental expansion of the city's line pond. Has it been getting bigger?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember the exact discussions. I thought we had curtailed them putting any more
I think
fluid
they
in
did
there.
for a bit, but then it started back up again and the
So
stormwater.
one of the issues that we've had in the recent past, probably the last 18 months, is our arrangement with the city of Dayton went away.
Yeah.
So the
so
city
they
of Dayton would
truck
come
it.
in,
Right.
they'd suck a lot of fluid and lime out, take it back up to their facilities, basically, then sell us back the same lime, but, you know, they de-water and everything. That stopped. We had another firm that had come in, not making as big of a consistent dent into the
Okay.
pond, so we're losing ground.
All right.
So, yeah.
And then the Butler Tech facility, is that 703/4 of a million pretty much earmarked for that?
It is.
Okay,
It is,
so
yeah.
Miami's not gonna say, oh, I got a 3/4 of a
Yeah,
million. sitting-"
Miami's, Miami is the fiscal agent of that, or the designated fiscal agent in the Department of Higher Education's capital allocation
So
on
they
that.
can't improve locker rooms or anything.
Yeah, so it would be some, so we're looking at that would be probably site prep costs to do the grading, compaction, utility extensions alike.
And getting to the grounds, Farmer Bob, it's getting pretty long out there.
Yes,
It's
and,
definitely in certain areas.
yes, and Mr. Schulte was just out, and we're trying to motivate Mr. Schulte to get back on the wagon. He's been gotten a little behind.
Right, and then related to that, how was the cleanup done for the fireworks that were performed this year? We've always had complaints that the byproduct cutting the grass back there was contaminated with firework type.
I haven't heard one way or another. I'll follow up on that one. I hadn't heard one way or another.
You said he couldn't sell hay bales with all the,
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't had that conversation.
Okay.
I'll touch base.
that's
Thank
just
you.
something to keep in mind on that.
Yeah,
Last question I have is, how many open T hangers do we have?
0. And that's what's driving our rate study as well. I mean, we have about, I think, Debbie, we have somewhere between 17 and 20 people on the wait list.
That is something I do see happening.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom, just to expand upon Nathan's answer about Miami.
Yeah.
When I talked to Miami, they said, these are all the capital budget is bonded, so they borrow the money. And because it's borrowed, it has to flow through a state entity. And so Miami is strictly saying, yes, this is used appropriately. No, it's not. It is designated for the city of Middletown. In fact, we can't even designate it to Butler Tech.
Yeah.
We have to use it, so it's gonna be kind of parallel projects.
Great.
And there is an expiration limit on that, there's an expiration limit on the ARPA dollars that the county gave them. So I think they have to push the gas pedal to make sure that they get it expended within the next 2.5, 3 years.
Our biggest issue is just making sure that we meet that nexus measurement of the state's dollars are being used for something that the state gets a benefit out of, so there's a joint use agreement. Getting into the weeds, Butler Tech's a little hinky on it, but it's one of those things that by and large, none of these state institutions on these kind of things really at the end of the day call in the chit on, but they have to show on paper that Miami has a right to use the facility for X, Y, or Z, so many
Sure.
hours a year that equals so much of rental cost, and it equates to how much money's going into the projects.
Okay. Just a comment, if you get a chance, go up to Dayton Wright Brothers and drive around and see their nice, big new hangar, that company, I always forget that company on
Connor Group.
Yeah, Connor Group.
the, added to it with a nice Citation 10 sitting in the existing hangar. A couple of citations came in the 5 minutes I was up there. So, they're pulling business.
Well, remember, when you have money to go to space, you have money for a nice shiny jet too. So, Mr. Connor's kind of loaded.
I know, Mr. Connor. Dealt with him many a time. I'll leave it at that.
All right, any other questions or items for Nathan? Okay, hearing none, old business? business? Hearing crickets. Any other random comments or questions?
I do have a little bit of a question. I'm not sure, and it's not new, but going back to the lime pond. When I first came on the commission, there was discussion about a retention wall and how to do it to confine it. Did that just go away, that we're not doing that anymore?
We did geotechnical report and drilling and depth finding, and it just is not,
Just not possible?
it's just not financially reasonable.
Okay.
I mean, the damn things can be out in the water and be 50 feet high or something, and you really don't know the real depth, so you can't even hardly design it. I mean, we looked all different directions, actually brought in a second geotechnical firm, trying to make this thing work. It's not working. So, I mean, you know, it sounds like, all right, we just pushed dirt in, but what research we were able to do and then the depth finding that they did, I mean, that thing just drops off, it's so steep. It's an old gravel pit,
Yeah.
and we filled them in before, and they,
But do we have margin? I mean, it can only grow so much before the end of the runway disappears. That's where I just thought that was the point of it. was-
yeah, that, you know, let me think that through, it might be interesting, I don't want to say, well, we really can't put a dike at the end of it, you might fill the grade up so that, you know, it doesn't encroach on the two side drainage ditches for the runway. I've seen that in aerial photographs. Maybe you go out, and the safety area has to have a maximum slope either down or up, and I think it's 5% once you get 150 feet beyond the end, but don't quote me on that. And maybe we just go ahead and grade it that way so that we minimize encroachment of water, let it go somewhere else.
Okay, just curious, I didn't catch up on when that effort got stopped or
Yeah.
determined as being.
I mean, there is a plan in the master plan to address it, but you can't implement any of that until the pond stops growing and it's being used, is my understanding.
I mean, our issue is that we're under design right now for a lime processing facility at the water plant that'll allow us to take the split and the spent lime and slurry, de-water it, get it down to, you know, somewhat dry caked, it's more easy to haul off, and then we can start processing some of the pond and get it down. But yeah, we're pushing a road, we're not making positive progress on the pond at the moment. So we're looking at some other options too. We can start digging on the south side of the pond in some of our property, but it's a question of how much is that gonna buy us, how much time.
Well, I mean, if we're 18 months away from having that facility, I mean, that to me is
Yeah.
about as quick as you can probably do anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I mean, it's already up into the, you know, when we have heavy rains, it already slides up under the taxiways and it's out in the infield. And then, about a month or so ago, it ended up over in Smith Park.
Yeah.
And now there's a dump truck worth of gravel that was, you know, a temporary dam over there. I don't know, I just, until it's gone, it's gonna be a thorn in your butt. You know,
Does the water facility have to be within a certain proximity of the well field? Is that, you know, it seems like at some point, some people decades down the road are gonna be like, we gotta move this.
Not necessarily. The issue's just friction loss from your well fields and, you know, how big of a pump system you gotta have, or do you have to boost it along the way to your treatment facility? Typically, you want your well fields basically right under your water plant if you can do it.
It's cheapest for the pumping costs, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then if you put it somewhere else, and that's where you pump that water out into the system piping may not be able to feed everybody as efficiently. Nothing's easy.
The other question I had, and it's just my poor memory, how close are the localizer antennas to the other side of that pond? Because if we start digging that direction, and we get too close to those,
Oh, yeah, we wouldn't go that direction at all.
you know,
Yeah, they're probably 100 feet.
so. And then the FAA will be yelling at us about that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Rightfully so.
Everybody saw the article in the press about the
Pending settlement.
settlements.
Yep.
I did what? I'm not sure I saw that.
I'll send you a copy. In the Journal News, they had a summary of what was going on with Mr. Hart.
Oh, I did, I'd like to read it. I
Yeah.
didn't see it.
Was that a week or two ago?
Last Saturday,
Okay.
a week ago Saturday.
Yeah.
I think.
Just send that my way too, please.
I'll send it to the whole group.
Okay.
Good news and bad news.
Anything else? Okay, next meeting is on the schedule for November 21st. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
All right. Second?
Second it.
Tim. All right. Time is 7 o'clock on the dot. Thank you.
Well done.